Hey, it's Jason.
And I'm Kyle.
I am often asked, what do I do with my pond in the fall? Today, we are going to walk you through the steps of what we do in order to get your pond ready when all the leaves are coming down. Tell me a little bit about what you're going to look at when you come in to a pond and what you're going to do.
So that's going to be the first step in this whole process. We'll take a look at the plants. We're going to cut hardies back. We're going to remove tropicals. And now is a perfect time that if there is overgrowth, we're going to start splitting some of those up. Here's a perfect opportunity of where we can get this plant split. As you can see right here, this cattail is starting to move its way over, and it's actually starting to block up our skimmer system. So I'm going to go ahead and split from about here over, so we're not only good to run for the rest of the season, but we'll be all set up for next season as well.
Now that we're dealing with the hardies, some get cut back, some get divided. Just walk me through those steps.
Keeping the netting process in mind, anything around the edges or that's going to prevent us to get the net securely over the pond, we're going to go ahead and cut those back. We always like to keep anything that's still vibrant and green living if it's not going to interfere with the netting process, just to give you some color over those winter months. As I was cutting back some of these cattails, I did come across celery growth. Now, it may look awesome outside of the pond or in containers. This is a very invasive plant, and we recommend to get as much removed as possible. Come spring, this plant will explode and start growing within the rocks, and its root system is very difficult to remove. So as of right now, it's not too bad, so we're gonna go ahead and take care of it.
What do we do with the lotus?
All right, so the lotus takes a little bit more in-depth winterization. What we're gonna do is typically they'll be on the first or second shelf of the pond. We're gonna go ahead and sink those down to the very bottom. Any vibrant green leaves we're gonna leave over the winter. Anything that's dead, wilted, looks brownish yellow, we'll go ahead and clip those back, but we're always sure to clip above the water level. If we go below, we can really do some damage to that plant.
We usually recommend netting your pond where it feels just a little bit too early. The leaves really haven't started coming down yet, and we want to make sure that we get the net up a little bit earlier, because what that's going to do is that's going to eliminate a lot of your leaf and debris buildup in the pond. The problem with having leaves in your pond over the wintertime, if it freezes over, as that stuff breaks down, it creates a gas, and that gas will actually kill your fish. So we want to make sure that we get that thing netted, keep a lot of the leaves and debris out, and that's how we're going to make sure that we have a healthy pond over the winter.
And that's definitely a key thing to keep in mind, to be ahead of the netting process, because when the leaves start to go, and they go quick.
So we're here at my house, and in order to show this video, we purposely waited just a little bit too long, right? There's going to be quite a few leaves in this pond. Once we get the leaves out of the way, anything that is in there, we scoop out some of that.
Right, we try to get the bulk of everything that has already fallen out of the pond as much as we can. We'll definitely take care of everything that's still floating on top, something that your skimmer may have not gotten to yet. But typically we won't do a full, complete clean. It's at this point, leaving the water in the pond, it's kind of impossible to get everything, but we will do our best to get the bulk of that out. So the next step, after we take care of all the plants, the loose debris, whether we're pulling them out, cutting them back, our focus is going to be on filtration. And that's one of the options that we will provide, is a full filtration cleaning, whether it be a bog or a biofalls.
After the biological filters are taken care of, we move on to the skimmer. And
right.
Tell me a little bit about that one.
So for the skimmer, especially now, this time of year, the skimmer is going to be doing its job. It's going to be pulling in all the leaves, all the loose debris that has been falling down. So we're going to clean out the skimmer basket. We'll remove the pump and skimmer mat. We'll inspect the pump, make sure there's no clogged debris in that, make sure everything's working properly, and then give the skimmer mat a good rinse. We'll get everything put back together and get you back up and running.
What do we need to do with the ion gens when we're doing this? If you have an ion gen on your pond, it's what takes care of the string algae. The way that they work is the ions break down and they stick to the string algae. And copper is a natural algicide, and that's what basically keeps all the string algae out. Well, once we start removing all the plants and there's not much string algae and everything, that those ions won't have anything to stick to and it will actually become toxic to the fish. So we want to make sure that we remove that ion gen during the fall maintenance process.
The next step after all the plants are removed and we're set up, right before we'll start the netting process, now is the best time if you have an aerator or any type of winterization to keep the pond from freezing over. Let's get that installed now, as opposed to coming back out here in December, early January. I don't want to get in the water then. So that's the best way to do it. So then when it's time to go, you just plug it in and you're all set for winter.
So by installing it, you mean we're not going to plug it in, right? We're just going to put it in, have that cord sitting along the side, and then whenever it starts to get cold, you can just plug that in and go from there.
Exactly.
Right?
So we'll be in the pond early on in the process to remove the plants, cut everything back. And that's the perfect time to get that thing set in the best position to keep your water from freezing over.
So make sure you check out our future video of the options that we have as far as keeping a hole in the ice for wintertime. Once we have that bubbler in, we got this, everything's cleaned up. I think we're ready for nets.
That will be the next process. We'll get the PVC poles up. We're gonna drive in pieces of rebar around the surrounding edges of the pond. One big thing to keep an eye on and to have in mind is where your plumbing is running underground around your pond system. It's very easy to drive right through that, and if your pond isn't running at that point, you won't know until the very next year that you have a very serious problem. The netting that actually goes over top of our PVC structure, we're going to secure those down with sod staples. We want to keep it as close to the edge to give it a nice clean look as possible, but to keep in mind where those liner edges are and not to be going in towards the pond, rather reverse and coming out.
So we have to watch out for the liner edges, we have to watch out for the plumbing, and we also have to watch out for the lighting wires.
The lighting wires are another thing that you definitely want to keep in mind. We always recommend, let's turn those lights on before we start netting. So we know if we nick anything and we see a light go out, we know exactly where the problem is.
You know, Kyle, back when we first started netting, I used to just put a net across the top of the pond. And the only thing worse when all the leaves were in the pond was having a net in between, trying to pull off a net, a couple 100 pounds, having the net rip, break. Oh my goodness. So after that, we went and tried some PVC pipes. I think the first time we did it, it was with 3/4 inch. And then we went to 1 inch, and then we went to 1.5 inches. Now we're all the way up to using 2-inch PVC pipes. And the reason that we do that is because it's able to handle that heavy load on top of that net as those leaves are pushing down. So it works really well. The one thing to keep in mind is that these pipes and this system is not meant for snow. So if you're leaving this net up for predator control, you may have to deal with some broken pipes and a few other things in the wintertime, or call us, we'll come out and do it. But sometimes we need to make a few modifications once the snow hits. For the fall part of this, that size pipe, it works well. It works really well. Does a good job.
And that's really the key, is to keep that net elevated. Like you said before, we were just kind of going right over top. It really defeats the purpose of the netting, since the leaf debris is still sitting in the water and breaking down and not really doing any good for any of the system.
It's kind of a little bit of an art, meaning we don't want that thing so high that it looks absolutely ridiculous outside, but we also have to make sure that it has enough pitch that the leaves tend to roll off of it and it's not completely flat and just sinking down into the water.
Exactly. And obviously every pond is going to have a different size, different shape. So to really come up with something that's structurally sound, and like you said, the aesthetics of everything, we keep that in mind as well. So I hope that answers some questions about your fall netting.
So if you have any questions or ideas for future videos, please put it in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe. And until next time, keep building your outdoor dreams. So as soon as I say, hey, it's Jason, you just chime right in. All right?
Sounds good.
Ready? Hey, it's Jason. You're supposed to say, I'm Kyle.